Hello, my name's Dr. Jesse Hanson, and I'm here with my dear brother and colleague Payton. And we wanted to come together today to just tell you a little bit more of who each other are and what we're up to in the world right now. I am a world bridger. I believe in the beauty and power of the ancient wisdom. I also believe in the beauty and power of modern science and psychology and trauma reprocessing work. And I've started my path 25 years ago in California as a holistic health practitioner, yoga, mindfulness, all of these elements, and continued through to get my PhD in clinical psychology, specializing in neuropsychology and trauma reprocessing work. And now here I am in my mid 40s living in Costa Rica and have this beautiful opportunity to connect with Payton on this amazing project that I'm working on called Atman. Atman is a Sanskrit word that basically translates to the never-ending process of awakening, of taking off the veils to really see more clearly who I am, who you are, who we are. And it's for me right now the sweetest time in my life just because I'm getting to blend the best 20s Jesse, who was Southern California, somewhat might call too woo-woo. However, I've rounded that and toned that with my 30s of becoming Dr. Jesse and doing a lot of work in the media world with intervention on A&E and other shows of being able to just spread this message that we're here to awaken, we're here to heal if we choose it. And so I'm just so excited now to come together, and not just Payton, but a whole amazing group of people that are stepping up to bring this mission forwards. And just wanted to take some time to connect today, and happy to be here with you, Payton.
Thank you, brother. It's a honor, and a privilege to share some space with you and talk a little bit about Ottman and the work that we, being you, I, the big team, and everybody else who participates along the journey. And um, my teacher always says his passion is to take people from being seekers to finders. And my journey started when I was in my very early teens, suffered with a lifelong condition of chronic pain and a long time of seeking of how to remedy that. And like many people in the space, had my life saved and transformed by master plants, and but through that, moving from seeker to finder and realizing that that experience was really just the start of the journey. And so through that, was fortunate enough to found an organization called Numinous, which was really kind of focused on how do we bring these modalities into people's backyards. And that organization today has seen over 65,000 people, hundreds of thousands of appointments. But through that journey for myself is really diving deeply into really understanding the full scope of these modalities and practices, and did everything from hundreds of hours of therapist training to multi-year apprenticeships with indigenous wisdom holders, and like Jesse, wanting to be a bridge for those people that are holding bigness in their life, and however that sort of presents itself with a path that is sustainable and consistent. And so through that, have also founded now an organization called The Path, which really helps people on that lifelong journey. And I think one of the things you and I share a passion for is, yes, there's these opportunity to drop into these really transformational technologies and modalities, but they're only as good as, the daily kind of non-sexy parts of doing the work that require that discipline and dedication, but also to do it with people who have really walked that path and are walking that path as well. So, yeah, really couldn't be more grateful for this brotherhood and friendship, and how that can support people on their journeys too.
Awesome. Thank you, Payton. And yeah, I haven't shared this with you yet, but just to let the listeners understand too, our connection and why we're really doing this. You named one of the biggest reasons is because we have such an alignment on sort of the clinical perspective or overall therapeutic
Mm,
perspective of how to successfully integrate ceremonial work into the existing mental health and medical infrastructures. The place of our connection, I mentioned doing the intervention with A&E, and it was actually on a live filming that I met a beautiful another brother and colleague called Ian Rabb, and he actually met unbeknownst to each other and in filming of like, oh, I'm passing care over to this man at the center he was running in Canada at the time, and he and I formed a connection, and he is actually the one I get to say thank you to for bringing this connection to Payton. And so he connected us, but I of course knew of Numinous. How can you be in this industry and not know of Numinous? And I knew of Payton, but I had never had the honor of connecting with you. However, where shadow and light all plays together is that, I had uh, had a number of different friends, colleagues, clinicians, people talk. People are people, people talk. And so I knew Numinous to be an overall benevolent force in the universe. However, I had also heard of elements that are more maybe profit driven or other elements that I had questioned. And so when I knew I was getting the opportunity to sit with you initially, I admit
mm,
I wasn't holding on to them tightly. It's like, don't give me this spiritual mumbo jumbo that we don't have judgment. We all have judgments. It's the question is, do we hold on to them as truth, or do we check in
mm,
with and see what is the actual measurable truth? And so I was instantly within minutes of first meeting you, Peyton. I never shared that with you, but I had that distortion in my consciousness. And right away, I don't know if you remember the first time, just was like, I recognized the necklace you were wearing at that time, and it was a super important one to you. And just saw through your eyes, even through the digiverse, man. I just was like, wow, it just shattered that distortion quickly. It's like, this man is one of the most genuine, authentic, beautiful men that I've ever met. And to move from stockbroker to CEO of master mega company to step and choose the path, to step and choose your own healing, your own work, and to do it in a way that, I guess, and this kind of bridges us into now the heart of this conversation, which is not only the obvious of preparation and integration work are important. Of course they are. We all know that. I have said that, the especially integration work is sort of the Achilles heel of this industry.
mm,
It's
mm,
it's quite not easy, but it's easier to gather a group of people and give them a bunch of sacraments, ayahuasca, mushrooms, whatever it is, and you know, entertain them and guide them for a day, for a week, whatever it is. It's a whole nother ball game to really commit to a lifetime connection, the path,
mm,
and
mm,
that ability to grow with them and to realize, yeah, like when you get back from ceremony, that's where the real work's going to begin.
mm, mm.
So yeah, I have more to say, but I want you to jump in on how that hits you. All of that, including the personal part.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and I think your reflection around the maybe ambitious capitalistic aspect of a lot of people who broach this work, and this is one of the things we talk a lot about is a lot of people, you see them arrive at this impasse of like, do I have to sacrifice my ambition for my personal work, or or vice versa? And, I think the invitation is no, like bring, what's true and authentic and real for you is a part of your path, and that both paths should actually inform and support each other. They shouldn't be at the expense of one another. And I think that's where a lot of people, sometimes struggle, and myself included, is how do you navigate having a foot deeply in all of the worlds that you want to touch, and how do they really support each other? And I feel that deep resonance with both what I'm doing with the path, numinous, and what Atman is really ushering in as well. Is, hey, this is a place for all of you to be here, and we're bringing people together who can help people navigate all of those worlds, because we do need big change in the world, and we want to invite that in, and we don't want, you don't have to play yourself small in order to show up. But the work is big, and the work is every day, and it's committed. And your comment around integration, I always say to people, like, what do you want to integrate into, right? We think of integration, sometimes we go into a ceremony and we blast it, we blast it all apart, and integration becomes this cobbling together before we slide back into old patterns. Where integration, for me, integration is your life. That's what it is. It's not a program that you box check and then go to the next thing. It's your life. And the more we can prepare and be, have some scaffolding and some railroad tracks built, so that when we do step into transformational containers, that they can have a path to follow. And I think it's such a crucial, you always hear people talk about things, whether you talk about ayahuasca or some of these different technologies, and how life-changing they are. And my invitation is always, well, then treat them as such, right? If it's really life-changing, then treat it as such. Give it that respect, give it that reverence, and that needs to be every day.
Learn how to reactivate the
That's right.
new neural networks, the new consciousness that was so life-changing, not
Yeah.
letting it become a fun time of the past.
Right.
And,
Right.
it's beautifully said, man. And I feel like also, a quick personal antidote. The first time that I got the honor of my first real deep therapeutic journey with ayahuasca was with Dr. Gabor Mate. And there's two quick wisdom bites from it. First one is the first night, opening up my whole new world and understanding these new dimensions, and never forget, I was having a hard time, of course, facing the void. And Gabor come over and just touched my heart. It was like, Jess, it's okay. Just remember, they're just memories. Just keep letting them move through. And
Mm,
as simple as it is, that was just such a beautiful way of helping me orient to it. And from that little bit of grounding he gave me, I was then able to implement my, at that point, roughly decade to 12 years of both a client and therapist of somatic trauma reprocessing work. And that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my goodness, why don't I just treat this the same way I would as if I was in my courses that I've been training in for the last decade,
mm,
and just basically immediately, somehow, the intelligence of my own self plus the plants, I just knew what to do. And I just started implementing all the different techniques and protocols that I've been studying around how to
mm,
sequence trapped energy in the body. And a couple things that are beautiful to me about this and kind of drive home the point of just going to do repeated ceremony after ceremony is there's always healing in it. And
mm,
perhaps there's a more effective and therapeutically oriented version of it, which is what I got from it, which was witnessing that whenever I felt the nausea, because in somatic work, you're trained to learn that nausea is actually emotions. It's
mhm,
craziness inside of us that's trying to come out. And it's the resistance to either just pure resistance or the not knowing of how to let that out in a focused or conscious way that creates the vomiting. And I've even had
yeah.
it in somatic trauma processing work without any plant sacraments, people puking and purging in different ways when you really get into the traumatic material. So I learned that night, not only, these are memories and treat this like somatic therapy, but that ultimately these plants are the mastic somatic healers and teachers and guides for us. And so when Peyton and I began to get to know each other and talk about this, I was just so relieved to find another high functioning professional that gets this and that understands. And I just all of a sudden felt like a brother at my side of like, goodness gracious, thank you. I'm not going to be the only one trying to convince people to do less actual plant ingestion and focus work. And what I've seen, Peyton, and I know you've seen it too, is like the more a person takes it seriously, gives it the respect, reverence, and understanding that I am the medicine, I am ultimately the one that's creating these changes. The plant sacraments are helping me to remember that or to how to do that. But that in that way, even people that have done a bunch of ceremonies before and they take a little time to slow down and do some more focused prep work and then re-enter ceremony, they have completely new ceremonial and more and more intentionally guided ceremonies. And it to me that's what gets me excited, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, two things on that. One, a personal anecdote that I don't think I've ever mentioned to you either, but you mentioned Gabor Mate, who, Gabor was, really my first big sort of advisor, still to this day, around the starting of Numinous. And actually, when we first connected, he was the first person that I reached out to and said, "Who's this? Who's this Jesse guy?" And Gabor had beautiful things to share about you, and so and obviously you look at the work he's done in the world. Such a Yeah, such an incredible person who continues to walk his own path with a lot of, authenticity and vulnerability, and still is on his journey too, right? And
He's paving the path for guys like you and I now to walk through it more
yeah,
gracefully. Oh,
exactly. So, yeah, very cool. Very cool.
beautiful, man. Well, I
Yeah.
feel like we could go on forever around this, and I want today's intention is to be more short and sweet and just opening to the connection here. So I
Yeah.
feel like, to kind of move into a closing space for today, Payton. Yeah, just the name, again, it feels so amazing to align with you. And, we both are doing this from this place of wanting to help more people awaken and bringing the intelligence of what you've been building with the path to what I've been working on with Atman and aligning forces just feels like a beautiful, selfishly for me, I'm excited about it as a professional, and it feels like the best thing for the planet as well, to
Yeah.
co-create this. And so, yeah, I'm just excited. And my closing quick thoughts are just that when also Peyton started opening me about the path and what it is I feel like it is something that is so needed, not only the level of reverence that it's calling out in terms of more of a longer term commitment with people, but also, there's a huge missing gap. There's a lot of places on the planet right now that are great for spiritual seekers, burning men, burning people, um, you know, hippies, woo-woos, all of that. There's not a lot out there yet that would actually serve to be of service to not only high functioning corporate execs, but also just the mass majority of the planet that is curious about this, but doesn't necessarily want to go sleep in a tent or on the floor somewhere and wonder what that's like. So that's what we're also excited about is bridging that, the best of ancient wisdom with modern knowledge and modern science. And so, yeah, I'd love for you to just share a little bit more about the path in terms of that corporate exec level, and ultimately just, yeah, that it's in, and that on the Altman side of things, we're building some projects as well like that, and we have a few spaces still open in September as our next Awaken experience, which is our sort of opening or introductory program. That would be a great way to make something like the path even more applicable or have more meaning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Just a quick on that, and as you touched on, these traditions, these practices, the opportunity to drop in for a retreat, they're not panaceas. They're not going to fix all your problems, and I think we exist in a time where that's, there's more and more awareness and recognition around that. For every one person who's had their life profoundly changed and altered by these experiences and has embodied that in their life, we all know someone who's racing off to ayahuasca ceremony 350, but can't find their car keys or hold a relationship to save their lives. And I think to have a space for those people who have recognized the potential of these experiences but want to catalyze them in a sustainable way, that's really the calling for the path, is those people that want to walk with that devotion and that reverence, and want to do it with, as I mentioned, people who are sharing that path with them. And yeah, I couldn't be more excited about where we're heading together, and just grateful to be on this journey together. So Thank you.
Beautiful. And we'll close with one last shout out to our friend and mentor Gabor Mate, The Myth of Normal, his most recent book. So incredible as you were sharing all that, just to even realize like we've created a certain level of normal right now where that's that, and what you and I and
Mm,
or many others, whoever will walk this path with us, is to say like let's make a new normal, and a new normal where this is more the understanding of how walk this path in this way with even more integrity, and that, just that how we show up is the most important part, because we're creating,
mm,
you know so honoring Gabor and how he reminds us that. And I guess the last quick personal share from that is I can fully acknowledge that who I am now and today is so different than who I was 5 years, 10 years ago. Hopefully everyone can say that, but is that, if what I look at as normal now, I feel like I'm existing in a sober psychedelic state quite
mm,
often, in terms of, once you enter that state often enough, we become more comfortable with altered states. And then that's a new normal. And then we're
mm,
from there. And that's what I also see with both the path and Atman, with more the vision of not selling 7-day miracles, but selling a lifetime process of awakening, is that we this new normal where it's like, wow, I can actually start to learn how to be in this frame of consciousness without having to go chase ceremony 350. Uh, so that's exciting to me as well, to have more people get that understanding and those upgrades. So,
yeah, yeah,
well, thank you so
very
much.
cool.
Such an honor today, man. And we'll continue to flow and glow and move this all forwards. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And as they say down here in Costa Rica, pura vida, may we all live a pure life. And we will talk soon.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.